welcome along to another episode of Telecast PH, the Telework PH Business Process Outsourcing Podcast, a podcast dedicated to breaking through the cultural barriers and changing the way we look at outsourcing to the Philippines. I'm BizDev Jeff, your host. Thanks for joining, and as always, a special thank you to all who have been listening and following my content on LinkedIn and Instagram. And if you haven't yet, and you want to find me on those platforms, all you have to do is search BizDev Jeff. Connect with me and I'll show you how outsourcing some of the non-core aspects of your business, like customer support or back office operations, can open up a whole new world, and in return, you'll be helping our mission to make an impact on poverty in the Philippines. Right, so on to today's topic and special guest. Now, today we're talking about starting an SaaS company from scratch with Paul Doerwald. Now, Paul is the founder and CEO of Clockk, which is a brand new company, and Clockk is a software as a service tool, which is solving the timesheet problem for creative agencies and software consultancies. Now, there are so many key takeaways from this conversation that it was really difficult for me to actually zero in on one thing to mention to entice you to listen. But I will tell you that Paul has an extremely interesting story to share, experiences that led him to found Clockk, and some amazing advice at the end of the conversation for founders and startup business owners. Let's listen in. Paul, welcome to Telecast PH.
Thanks for inviting me here, Jeff.
Oh, I'm happy to have you here. First off, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences and your journey so far?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not a young man anymore. I did a degree in music, of all things, back in the late 90s. And that was kind of because I've always been into technology, but I didn't want to spend 4 years studying to program only to enter a career in programming. So I thought, I'm going to do something completely different. And I was just always in choirs in high school. So I thought, I'll study music for 4 years. And it was a great experience. It was a real challenge for me. Every day was hard because software people aren't the first ones to climb up on stage. So it took a lot of breaking me down and building me back up again. But it's a great experience now that I can draw on 20 years later. And it helps me do the things that aren't comfortable. But anyway, in those intervening 20 years, I worked for many of those years as a freelance software developer. I had a small consultancy for a little while. I grew to 6 people and we had a number of clients. So that was a good time. And actually it was in that time that I realized that I do my best work when I'm collaborating with other people. Because I feed off of their energy, I feed off of their ideas, we bounce ideas back and forth. So I just did my best work compared to when I was a freelancer. So I really yearned to come back to an environment where I could work with other people again. And then that was kind of what made me want to start another business and to start Clockk.
Well, it sounds like you've got a pretty well-rounded past that has been able to allow you to draw up those experiences to be where you are today.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to do a lot of things. My wife is an academic, so her research, her studies took us to a number of places around the world. So we've lived in Germany, we lived in England for several years, in Oxford while she did her doctorate. I picked up a master's of software engineering while we were there. And yeah, I've just had an opportunity to experience a lot in a lot of different places. And all of those have been just great for giving me perspective. And I've had a lot of great opportunities in my life.
And you just had a baby less than a year ago, yes?
Yeah, that's been the most wonderful of the opportunities. I didn't think at first that I'd be a baby person. I was looking forward to having a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old. But it turned out when I held that little thing in my arms, it was the best. And the first 6 months were incredible. At 6 months, he got a personality, and I love his personality. But now it actually takes more work, and there's a battle of wills. That first 6 months where all he did was eat, sleep, and cry, it was sort of this sleepwalking pleasure.
Well, it is. I'm a father too, and I became a father late in life. I was already 40 years old when my son was born. So as you say, in those first 6 months, you start to wonder, what are they going to be? And it's like a waiting game. It's the anticipation of, what are they going to be like? What's his voice going to sound like? These little things that pop into a father's head, just wondering, not what kind of man he's going to be, but what's he going to be like in a year? Those kind of things. Right.
My wife and I reflected on on the ultrasound we had of our baby after he was born, and we looked at it and we're like, wow, that ultrasound looks exactly like him, but there's no way we would have known that looking at just the ultrasound. He just looked like an outline. So that was a really interesting thing to realize, and we thought about that as we were reflecting on what his personality will be one day. Because right now at 10 months, we're seeing personality come out, but it's too undefined. So we'll be, in 3 years, we'll be able to look back and say, oh yeah, when he was like this, it was this part of his personality starting to take shape. And so it's really interesting to kind of get this view forward in time.
Oh, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, my son just turned 9, and it's hilarious, the change in personality. When he was a baby, when he was 7 months, up to about a year, he was quiet. He didn't cry much. I wouldn't say withdrawn, but just reflective all the time, interested in everything else. Come 2 years old, 3 years old, he's loud. He's just all over the place, boisterous. It's just hilarious, the changes. But anyway, let's move on. Tell us about Clockk.
So thanks for asking that question. Clockk is the answer to timesheet pain. It was something that I faced when I had my small consultancy. I have a lot of friends who have software consultancies and design agencies. So it was kind of this conversation that came up from time to time, fighting with their employees to get timesheets, or hearing from their employees how much they hate doing timesheets. Everyone hates timesheets, yet they're so critical for any company that bills time that they need to have it. And so there's this disconnect. It's a pure administrative task, yet it is the most important bit of data internally that your company creates. So, and because of the nature of how people track time, because of the nature of people's memory, timesheets are notoriously inaccurate. It's an open secret in the industry that everyone knows that every timesheet is completely fabricated. They're made up. Some people are really diligent and they do good work, like they have very precise time, but on average, you can't actually trust the data in them, yet we rely on that data. So Clockk is an attempt, and I'm really proud of what we've built, to fix that, to give us good data, because Clockk makes it really easy for people to remember what they worked on, remember who they worked for, what they did, when they did it. It gives them all of that information, so that doing your timesheets is not a period of stress and agony, but it's actually, our goal is to make timesheets be this feeling of reward, of, wow, look at how much I was able to accomplish in this last week. I had a really productive week. I had no idea that I worked on 16 different projects across 5 days and all of that. These are questions that Clockk can answer trivially that no other tool on the market can do. And I think my team has just done fabulous work. I'm really proud of them. It's actually, it's a better product than I imagined it could have been when I started down the road.
So the whole thing was just born out of what you saw as a necessity, an improvement, that absolutely a disruption that needed to be made.
Yeah, I do think it's a disruptive technology because it's going to change the way consultancies can look at how they track time and change how they look at time itself. It gives them an unparalleled level of power, and I hope that consultancies that use Clockk are going to look at themselves and say, wow, we're just better than our competition because we know more about ourselves.
Now, when you originally started, you wrote the program, right? You wrote the software for it?
To be honest, I wrote the first few lines of it, but then I handed it over to to other developers. And so I'm definitely guiding the direction of the product. My hands are in there all the time, but I'm at the well, not the 10,000 foot view, the 1,000 foot view. I'm intimately familiar with the details of how each of the features is implemented, but I'm not actually writing any more of the code.
Gotcha. So, but when you first started, when you sat down to start to develop this, was the intention to begin your own business, or was it, just I want to create this and see what happens?
No, the intention has been to create a business. I've been wanting to create a software as a service business for at least the last 10 years. It has been I would say, my professional career goal for that entire time. I've just been waiting to come across the right idea, something that resonates with me, something where there was an opportunity in the market to do something new. We have a few competitors, but not many. So there's actually a big opportunity here for Clockk to basically be the defining product of an entire category, of an entire software category. And that's really exciting for me. So, no, I set out very specifically to create a business. I started by talking to as many people as I could, people who've used timesheet solutions, people who depend on them. So the rank and file who work in an agency, the creatives, the copywriters, the software developers, and I've spoken with the CEOs and the CFOs and the controllers, project managers, account managers. I've talked with everyone through the whole hierarchy to understand how they each interact with timesheets, how they feel the pain of timesheets, and how important they are to them. And for some people, they're not important at all. They're pure pain. For other people, they're still pain, but they're incredibly important. And it was actually quite surprising to me. I thought that it would be freelancers who would need the software the most, and that big agencies would have it all figured out. It turned out when I spoke with managing directors at large agencies, they feel the pain so acutely. They're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars every year in unbilled time, because they have no idea where their time is going, because they can't trust their timesheets, because they struggle to bill their customers. This is a critical problem that's facing consultancies around the world. I didn't know how bad the problem was until I got to digging into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely sensitive information, that needs to be cared for properly. That's their bread and butter. If they can't bill the clients, for the time that they've worked on the project, and then they have no other tracking or no other proof, so to speak, of how to go back in time and say, man, I worked on this for this much time. This is what I did in this time. Because now when you and I first spoke and we got in the call and you showed me the back end and you showed me the product Clockk and how it works, it tracks the actual project as the person's working on it, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's right. When you look at Clockk, you see a grid. Time is down the left, so it looks like your calendar, like the day view on your calendar. But there are multiple columns, and in each column is one project. And as you're working, you can actually watch those columns grow, the blocks on those columns grow as you see yourself adding time to a project. And then you jump to another project because somebody sends you an email and you need to take care of a quick copy change or a bug fix or something. You can see that time added there before you return back to the project you were working on. It's quite a powerful experience to see your day so precisely reflected. In fact, on those days where I still have done some programming, or I've been particularly I've been wearing my productive hats rather than my CEO hat, where my CEO hat is just all over the place. But where I've been actually focused on producing something, it's insanely accurate to see that I started at 9:53 and I finished at 11:21. Tells me exactly how many minutes there were. And I know it's true because I also watched the clock to see, is Clockk going to get me right? And yep, it does.
So it's essential for freelancers and agencies that have people working on several different accounts at once, and they can just move freely between, throughout their day, working on this account, working, I got to hop over here for 5 minutes and do this. I got to send some tweets. I got to, whatever that client has them doing throughout the day. And they don't have to block off certain times or anything like that. They can just move freely throughout their day, and it's all tracked in one place.
Yeah, and that is specifically the pain that I was feeling as a freelancer, because I would try to get work done on one project. Somebody would email me, "Could you please take care of this really quickly?" And of course, I want to be helpful, so I do. And I had to start and stop a timer. And after you've started and stopped a timer a few times, you can't remember to start. It's so hard to manage a timer that you have to start and stop all day long. I can't count the number of times that I woke up the next morning with an email saying your timer has been running for 18 hours. Well,
Yep.
It does me no good anymore. It's too late. And I have no idea what project I was billing or should have been billing. That information is all lost. So I wanted to solve that problem, the jumping between projects.
I've had the same experience as a freelancer on Upwork. You start the timer, and the project's done. You're so happy the project's done. You got to run to the bathroom. You got to do whatever you got to do, and then you just forget to turn it off. And what time did I stop? Oh, good Lord! So this, yeah. When did Clockk release?
So we released back in October 2019. That's when we kind of did our public launch. But it's and we actually had another. Let me try again. Mm-hmm. We had our public launch back in October 2019, so only a few months ago. And we just more recently did our product hunt launch, which was really exciting. We got a good number of upvotes. It was a challenge. It was an interesting experience to do a product hunt launch. So I've learned a lot through that process. And it wasn't quite the knock it out of the park success that we hoped it would be, but I think that was for a number of reasons. One, we did our product hunt launch on a Friday, which is not a great day for product hunt, and I had no idea how bad Fridays would be. Plus, we also launched in the basically week 2/3 of COVID-19 lockdowns, so everybody's mind has been totally on COVID-19. So although people are working from home, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think people are so overwhelmed by the specter at our doorstep that it has been hard for us to cut through that noise and to reach our early adopter customers.
That is so understandable. But what I can see is an amazing future for Clockk, because as more people move towards freelancing and more businesses start using freelancing to solve smaller problems and smaller projects, they're going to start looking for better solutions.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think there is an opportunity here in this context of COVID-19. More and more people are working from home. Those who still have jobs certainly are working from home now. Then there are the freelancers who are coming out of the woodwork, who are the freelancers who are arising as a result of the economic situation. But I want to focus on the first group, the people who used to work in an office and now because of circumstances are working from home. They are learning a new set of skills. At the same time, their businesses that are used to having them in an office are also learning a new set of skills. I think when we come out of this situation, businesses everywhere will be adapted to having a workforce that can work remotely. And so it's going to be much more normal than it ever was for people to telecommute, to have 2 or 3 days to work from home. And I think the opportunity that we have with Clockk in that context is that, well, while you're working from home, you're distracted all the time. There's laundry and dishes, there's cooking lunch, picking up the children at school, all of those things. On one hand, it's easy to lose track of how much time those things take. And I think people will also feel disappointed with themselves because, oh, look at how much I'm not getting done. I'm constantly distracted by these things. Yet Clockk can offer them an insight into their day for where they have been productive to show them just how productive they've been. I know from my own experience as a work from home freelancer for all those years, there are only so many hours, so many good, focused, hardworking thinking hours that I have in a day. And I didn't try to aim for an 8-hour day. I tried to aim for a more reasonable, I think it was like 5.5, 6 hours that I could do consistently high quality work. And so that's what I aimed for. And Clockk is the kind of tool that'll be able to show you how that you're able to work consistently and show you that you've been productive in those windows and just how productive you've been, as opposed to futzing around in the office, talking to people,
right,
this and that. Working from home gives you that opportunity where you can actually, when you can shut out the noise, you can be incredibly productive because there is no noise.
And that's almost motivational in a way.
Yeah. When I was a work from home freelancer, I enjoyed my work. I was able to work really well, and it was a good experience. These days, where I really thrive is by collaborating with other people. So personally right now, I am missing the office environment because I miss seeing my employees. I miss that looking over at somebody and saying, what do you think of this problem? There's an extra layer of friction to set up a Zoom call with somebody to ask them to look at something or to get their quick opinion. And that friction doesn't exist when you're in a small office with a tight team. And so I do miss that. There are pluses to both of them. And I think from my perspective, Clockk is taking this opportunity to make sure that we are all able to work remote so that we can both enjoy the remote part of work as well as the in-office, in-person part.
Well, you know what a lot of people don't realize is when you are a freelancer and you're working from home, you're basically working for yourself, that it does take a lot of discipline, a lot more discipline, than being in the office environment, because you don't have somebody looking over your shoulder. And that, like you said, there are a lot of distractions, a lot of things that can pull your attention away, and just if you don't feel like doing it, it's so easy to walk away and say, I'll come back to it later. And the next thing you know, your whole day could be blown. So that there is that level of discipline when you do work, when you do work as a freelancer, and those with that kind of discipline can and will be more successful. So with Clockk and having it be able to track all of your successes, I should say, and everything that you have done, and you have that motivational, and you like you said, that I can look back and see, wow, I can't believe I accomplished all of this. I'm going to set a goal to accomplish just a tad bit more next week, or to just to keep that momentum up.
I agree with you that it takes discipline to work from home, but I don't know that it takes more discipline to work from home than it does to work from the office. I think it's for people who are not motivated to work, they can waste a day just as easily at the office as they can at home. But those who are motivated and who love what they do and who are passionate about the problem that they're solving or the task they've taken on are going to be able to do it kind of regardless where they physically are. So this might be an oversimplification, but I think if you're struggling in working from home, I would ask yourself, how much did you struggle in working from the office? And what was it about the office that was able to get you to work? Because is it a boss cracking a whip? Is it some external force that was your discipline that you don't have at home? I wonder about things like that. I think there's an energy in the office that you can thrive on. Conversely, there is a silence at home, children accepted, and those kinds of things. But when you've got that space to work at home, the beauty of it is that you don't have people walking past you. You don't have visual distractions. You don't have a coworker saying, let's go for lunch or let's grab a coffee. You just have you and the problem you're trying to solve, so you can get into it. Both of them have their advantages.
Point well taken. Point well taken. Yeah, that I hadn't looked at it from both angles. I guess maybe since I've been working from home for so long, and I'm rarely in the office setting, to be honest. So has the outbreak affected you, good or bad, either way?
Thankfully, no. No one in my family or among my friends has become ill, so that is a relief. My parents are both in their 80s, and they're living in a different province. So I worry for anything happening to them, because it would be horrible for them to be in the hospital or worse, and to not be able to be there with them. So I'm glad that nothing like that has happened yet. For me personally, I'm an introvert, so I feel like I've been preparing my entire life for a moment like this, to work from home and to be on my own and to have the social license to not go out for days at a time. So on that hand, it's been great. However, I have noticed after, I guess we're kind of in week 4 of our own lockdown here in Nova Scotia, that I am starting to feel the mental pressure of the constant barrage of alerts on my phone and news on TV. It is really intense. And although some are saying there's a light at the end of the tunnel, you can't necessarily trust some of those voices. And it's also hard to see that light for myself. And I am starting to notice how that is weighing down on me mentally, and on my family and the people around me, the people I care about.
It is. It definitely saturates all media outlets. And it can be. It's a drag. And to be honest, I told my wife the other day, I said, just don't tell me anymore right now. I don't want to hear any more reports. I'm going to take a COVID-19 fast, and just there's no foreseeable solid end in sight. They say that the lockdown is going to end at this time or that time, but they can't be for sure. They really just can't be for sure.
Yeah, good for you for taking the media break. I haven't had the courage to do it yet, because it's also sort of like watching a slow motion car crash. It's fascinating. You can't turn away from it,
right?
But it's also horrible, and you don't want to see, you don't want to know. This crisis is playing at all of our emotions in so many ways, and the media is doing the same, because that's what the media does. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They're doing their due diligence as news organizations, but it is emotionally complex, and it's hard for us to process, and I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah, well, let's hope that this ends as soon as possible, and we all can get back to a semi-normal life. There's going to be changes. There's going to be changes in the world globally.
Well, and I look at it like this. Nova Scotia has a really miserable, cold, long spring. So it's a great time to be inside. And by 3 months from now, things should be better. And that's when the weather here gets really nice. So basically, as the weather slowly gets better, I'm also confident that the world around us is going to inevitably get better as well. And it's just this interesting metaphor that gives me hope. Like, spring coming forth is also our redemption from this crisis.
So moving on, let's talk about the many hats you wear as the CEO and founder.
Yeah. So it was around the time that you and I first met that I kind of counted the hats that I wear. We're a very small company. Right now it's me, 2 developers, and a marketing intern. So I am, like, mercifully, I'm not programming. That is one responsibility I don't have. But I'm still head of product, head of marketing, head of sales, head of business development, head of legal, accounting, and human resources. And that's a lot of hats to wear. That's 7 hats. Now, the last 3, at the size of company that I have, I could get away with like that. Those ones are pretty easy to do. But sales, marketing, product, and biz dev, these are each full-time jobs. And so it was when I took stock of all the things that I'm doing, all the things that I'm responsible for, that I have to do in order to move this company forward, that I realized there's no way that I can move the company forward in any meaningful pace as long as I'm responsible for all of these areas. And not just high-level responsible, but details responsible. I'm writing the job description. I'm posting it. I'm interviewing the people. I hire them. I onboard them. And that's just my HR responsibility. And that's one of my easy things. That takes no time. So, and that's kind of what brought me around to you. That's why I started exploring outsourcing as an option, because what can I do to take some of these hats off of me, to find people who are competent, who can take on these responsibilities, who I can trust, and who will do a good job at them. So I'm exploring the various ways that I can solve that problem.
Absolutely, and we still have that conversation going.
Mm-hmm.
And you forgot in your hats customer service.
Yeah, because I have a Trello board to track all of the things that I have to do by hat. And so at the top of, like, literally the hat of the list is the title of the area. And then there are a bunch of cards inside. And I'm just trying to move through cards. So this week I'm actually focusing on finance and fundraising, so the accounting hat. And I don't actually have a hat for customer service because it's not really an area. It's just one of those things that happens to me. It's not something I can plan on so much as that I react to as customers come. And it's one of the things that's actually taking away from my other work. So good on you. Now I have 8 hats, and you've just made my day worse because I have 8 hats to wear.
Well, that's all right. I'm going to talk to you soon about building that customer support infrastructure and,
yes.
and getting that all taken care of. So as it stands right now, with all of your experience over the past 20 years, for other people in your situation that have an idea for a startup, what kind of advice do you think that you would want to give?
That's a great question. I've had 20 years to think about it, and I figured it out after I started Clockk. And this is what I would advise to anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, who wants to have a startup. And I'm not referring so much to the freelancers. That's a kind of a different thing. But if you want to start a product company of some sort, this is where the advice really sits. If I could do it again, or if I were to go back in time and do it again, I would start by finding a partner, a co-founder. Find somebody that complements me, who has complementary skills, somebody who I see eye to eye with, especially when it comes to how we spend money, how we invest, how we hire, the kind of culture we want to build. Find somebody where I'm really, really well aligned in terms of those values. And then together with that person, choose a market. Who do you want to serve? A friend of mine, he created a company and he sells software to manage marinas. Why does he manage marinas? Or why does he have software for managing marinas? Because he wants his customers to be on the ocean. Because he wants to go to all the places in the world where there are beautiful ocean vistas and meet with his customers. That's a great market. In my case, I love interesting cities, so I wanted to target agencies and forward-thinking agencies. A lot of them are located in the middle of big, thriving cities, and they're doing interesting things. They're full of creative people. So I targeted that market because those are the people that I want to work with. And then now that I have with a co-founder and with a market, now together go and talk to the people in that market and let them tell you what their pain is. And using those conversations about their pain, guided conversations to look in and discover what keeps them up at night, what frustrates them, where are they losing money. Learn as much as you can about the customer in your market. And with that knowledge, only then start thinking of a product that can address that pain. Now, obviously, you're going to come into this with a few biases because you might already know the market that you're interested in because you've been working in it for years. You might have a few inclinations about where there might be a pain, or you might have a bit of an idea for a product. But as much as possible, I would try to push those ideas down and really let the customer tell you about their pain and let the customer drive the development of the product. Clockk is stronger because of what my customers have told me, because of what I learned from them before I wrote a single line of code, because of the explorations that we did to learn about what they need and why time tracking is a problem for them, and what the nature of the problem is, and why they're losing money, and why it makes it hard to retain staff, and why having better time tracking data will actually let them keep more of their staff. These are things I never would have known if I just jumped straight into product development. So yeah, that's my advice. Start with the team, build the team, find the market, discover the customers, and discover the product.
I think that is amazing advice. Rather than going out and trying to convince somebody that they need something that they've never thought of before, you're addressing the pains and the needs that they're telling you that they're experiencing.
Yes.
Well, Paul, we got to wrap it up. How can people get a hold of you? How can they find out about Clockk? Do you want to give some links to where somebody could get a hold of you or explore Clockk?
Yeah, absolutely. So Clockk is, you can find Clock's website at clockk.com. So it's the word clock, like the one that hangs on your wall, but with an extra K at the end. Why is it Clockk with two Ks? Because clock.com with one K, that costs like $2 million. Clockk.com with two Ks, I was able to get for a lot less. So
Okay.
you can find the website at clockk, clockk.com. Feel free to email me, paul@clockk.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. And otherwise, I hope to connect with you at events. I'm going to be going to a lot of conferences over the next year once we can start going to conferences again. And I just want to meet more of my customers and talk to people, learn about their pain, and make sure that Clockk is solving the particular pains they have. So if you have pains, particularly in time, I want to hear about them. I want to learn about them. I want to share your pain.
Great. So, and I'm going to put those links in the description for the podcast so people can, easily find you on LinkedIn, or just click it and head on over to Clockk and check it out. So that's going to wrap it up. Paul, thank you so much for being here. And I got a lot of takeaways, and a lot of your advice really hit home with me. And I hope that, our listeners were able to get as much out of it as I did.
Thanks so much for your time, Jeff. I really enjoyed this conversation. You're an easy person to talk to, so I look forward to our next conversation. Take care.
All right, take care. Right, so that'll wrap it up for this installment of Telecast PH. I've been BizDev Jeff. Thanks for listening, and a special thank you to Paul Doerwald for taking the time to talk with us today. Now, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. And if you're on the YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload new content. And I'm always looking for great feedback, so comments are welcome. And of course, if you want to find out more about Telework PH and what we do and how we can help your business scale up quicker, all you got to do is hop on over to www.teleworkph.com or hit me up on LinkedIn. Just search BizDev Jeff Thompson or the hashtag BizDevJeff. And as the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer said, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Take care, everyone. Be safe. This is BizDev Jeff, signing off.